Good morning and welcome. We are the Community Advisory Board known as CAB. We are a board established by the Community Corrections Partnership, acronym CCP. We'll start off with our introductions. Ariana, could you kindly call the roll so that we can establish quorum?
Yes. Nicole Green,
Here. Aye.
Ozzy Carter,
Present.
Brenda Lee,
Present.
Raina Moore,
Present.
Latanya Thompson,
Present.
Justin Van Zerber,
Present.
Jeffrey Robinson.
Present.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 members are present. Quorum is established.
Thank you, Ariana. I've also asked that each of our board members, one at a time, it's the only way we can go, actually establish themselves and county, the region that you represent here. And I'll start it off. I'm Ozzy Carter, representing East County, and this is my 4th year.
I can go next. My name is Rena Moore. I'm an East County resident, Antioch specifically, and it's going to be my 2nd year.
Latanya Thompson, West County, in my 2nd year.
Brenda Lee, West County, 2nd year.
Justin Van Zerber, West County, 2nd year.
Jeffrey Robinson, representing Central County.
Nicole Green, Vice Chair representing East County, 4th year.
Thank you. And we'll now move to introductions for our staff members. From ORJ.
Hello, my name is Garyana Youngblood, and I'm with the ORJ.
Very good. And do we have any county agencies present that would like to introduce themselves as well?
I'm Jill Ray with the Office of Supervisor Candace Anderson.
Charles Brown with the Workforce Development Board.
Jamie Jeanette with Contra Costa Health, Housing, and Homeless Services.
Jana Evans, County Office of Ed.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Rupel Stroud, Contra Costa County Office of Education, Adult School.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members in the room that would like to introduce themselves?
Tiffany and I have True Success Center.
Thank you.
And I'm Cynthia Chaser of the Gemma Project.
Thank you.
And I'm Gloria Bell Pastrana with Rubicon Programs.
Thank you. Any others would like to introduce themselves? Hearing none, we'll move forward. Prior to moving to announcements, we're going to set the table for the quorum in this venue. Those participating in person, those participating via Zoom should indicate they wish to speak by using the raise your hand feature in the Zoom app. And if we don't have members calling in or any community calling in, so we'll move on. Let's take a moment to review our purpose. That purpose is to advise CCP by assessing the implementation of the county reentry strategic plan. Some, but not all of our responsibilities are reviewing data on realignment outcomes, advising CCP on engagement strategies, offering recommendations for ongoing realignment planning, advising county agencies regarding programs for implementation in the county. We encourage outcomes that are consistent with the reentry strategic plan. Now we'll move to announcements. Are there any announcements from CAB members? Hearing none. I will wait to the end. Are there any staff announcements? Any public at large announcements?
Good morning, everyone. Tiffany and Naya with the Reentry Success Center. We are excited to announce that we will be hosting the AB 109 Partners and Providers meeting at our office on Tuesday, March 26th from 10 to 12. If you haven't already RSVP'd and interested in attending, it's definitely not too late. We would be happy to have you all. We are also getting ready to start our next Alpha cohort, scheduled to begin Monday, April 8th. So if you have any individuals who could benefit from the comprehensive program, please connect them to the center or send them our way, and we will get them assessed and connected to our Alpha program. We also have some community events that are coming up. We are excited to announce in partnership with the Public Defender's Office that we'll be having a Clean Slate Day on Friday, May 17th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Reentry Success Center. And we are also excited to announce that we are getting ready to have our annual Welcome Home Reentry Community Block Party, Resource and Employment Fair. This is scheduled for Friday, July 26, 2024 from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We do anticipate inviting all of our partners to table, offering all their programs and services. We will also have employers offering reentry employment opportunities. There will be music, raffles, games, food, and other fun for all of the community. And our last announcement, we are still looking for one reentry coach. So we do have a reentry coach vacancy at our office. If you have anyone who may be qualified or interested, anyone with lived experience is also encouraged to apply. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. You actually announced one of the announcements that I had, and that's in reference to AB 109 Partners. Yes, Jill.
Yes, the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice will be doing a report at the Equity Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Board of Supervisors, on Monday. And to give a little history, the Board of Supervisors approved $1 million of Measure X funds to go toward the efforts of lifting up an African-American holistic wellness and resource hub, as well as providing services throughout the county, but also focusing on Antioch, given the most recent police scandals. And one of the items recommended for spending that $1 million in the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice's report is reentry, which is significant because reentry was brought up as a request for funding at the very beginning of the Measure X CAB discussions and has been left off the list by Measure X CAB repeatedly. So it's exciting to see that the ORESJ is lifting that up. And so I will share the information on the meeting with the ORJ so that they can share it with all of you. If any of you want to be present and speak on that subject, there is opportunities to do so at that meeting.
Thank you so much, Jill, for that information. Are there any other announcements? Hearing none. I will move on to the next item, and that will be today an inspirational quote or two. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. Let's empower each other to rise stronger and brighter than before. And remember, excellence is not an exception, it's a prevailing attitude. Though the road may be challenging, our past does not define our future. With resilience and determination, we pave a new path toward success and fulfillment. Moving on to the rest of our agenda. Is there public comment on any item under the jurisdiction of the Community Advisory Board and not on this agenda? Hearing none, we'll move to item number 3, the approval of record of action for the Thursday, February 8th, CAB general meeting. Attachment 1, please see pages 5 through 8. This is a voting item. We'll take a moment to look over those minutes. I will be looking for a motion and a second. For a motion,
This is Nicole. I motion to approve, the minutes from our record of action from February 8th, for that meeting.
This is Latanya Thompson. I second the motion.
Great. I have a,
Brianna?
yes, I have a motion and I have a second. All in favor of approving the record of action from Thursday, February 8th, 2024 minutes, raise your hand or please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Move to item number 4 on our agenda.
Just note that the main group just muted.
Yeah.
We're moving to the next item on our agenda, 4, which is discuss CAB applications for new membership to be considered for approval by CCP. That's attachment 2, pages 9 through 18, and this is a voting item. Prior to the vote, I need to give some information. Ms. Spearman, Alexandria Spearman, there seems to have been some conflicts that have arisen in her scheduling at this point in time, and so we are going to move on to our second listing. Marcus, and I don't want to mispronounce the last name. Ariana, could you help me with the last name for our second candidate?
Marcus DeWall,
Thank
and he is here and he is present.
Thank you. And I would just like to give a little feedback prior to our discussion. OCEC, we met and the decision was made by our chair to move Mr. DeWall forward into our regular CAB meeting due to the timeliness in wanting to make sure that our seats are filling on our board. It's imperative that we increase our membership. And because of that, we're here at the full CAB to approve Mr. Wall for membership. So hopefully we've all had the opportunity to read over his application. He is present on Zoom. If there's any questions that need to be considered. And this is a voting item.
You want to give them an opportunity?
Sure.
Bill has got-
Yes, Jill.
My only request in the future is when these items come up for appointing is to have included in the agenda the list of current people, locations of where they're from, the current listing of seats and vacancies and who's from what area of the county. That would be my only request in the future. I know that that document exists somewhere, so thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Duly noted. So at this time, we would probably want to ask Mr. Wall if he would like to take a moment and give us a brief overview and just talk to us for a moment so that we can get an opportunity to gather some insight.
Sure, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Marcus DeWall. I've lived in Brentwood, California. I have lived in Brentwood since December of 1999, and up until January of this year, I worked for the Alameda County Probation Department. I worked there for 25 years, started off working part-time in juvenile hall, and then worked my way through the deputy probation officer series and into management. And ultimately, the last 3 years that I worked in Alameda County, I was first the interim chief probation officer and then the chief probation officer. And I've enjoyed, the last couple months of being retired. However, I've always had a vested interest in civil service and county government. And I've raised with my wife, my 3 boys here in Contra Costa County, East Contra Costa County, and still have one son that's in high school. And so I have a vested interest in what's going on in the community here. I have been very specific and intentional about, what I will do or what I would like to do moving forward in retirement. And one thing that I've wanted to do is get involved in some of the in the community work that's in Contra Costa County. As I mentioned, I've lived here for over 2 decades. However, with my job and the demands of my job, I wasn't able to put any time or any formal effort into what's going on in the county that I reside in. So I have a lot of respect for the work that's done in Contra Costa County. There are some similarities, but there's also some distinctions between Alameda County and Contra Costa County. So I do believe that I can provide some insight based on my experience with county processes, extensive experience in reentry work and working with community stakeholders, community advocates, community-based organizations, and county partners. And so I'm just looking to be a contributor, to be somebody that would be a resource and provide input and recommendations within the community advisory board, and ultimately work as a collaborative partner to provide feedback and recommendations to the Community Corrections Partnership Executive Committee. So I appreciate the time and the consideration, and if there's any questions, I'm open to any questions that any of you have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is Nicole. I was really excited to read what you submitted, and thank you for the summary. You tapped on questions that I had and that I was going to ask you. So it's very nice to think it's great to be able to have someone apply to be in one of our seats that's been at that level from probation and have that experience, especially from another county. So I was very excited to see that. And the expertise that you can bring over here from Alameda County. So one of the questions I did have is, 2-part. Have you had a chance to look at any of our posts that not our posts, but any of our previous meetings, or have you participated in any of our previous CAB meetings and know a little bit about what we're working on, what our recommendations are, what our goals are for this committee?
So I'll answer, first of all, I've never attended or participated in any of your meetings. I have looked at some of the documents that are available online. Specifically, I looked at the last meeting so that I can see how the meetings are run and what the agendas looked like. I looked at the operating guidelines as well, so I could be familiar with what the commitments are to the community advisory board. And I understand that it's the monthly commitment to the meetings, but then there's also a requirement for participation in a subcommittee and encouragement to attend the CCP EC meeting. So that's the gist of the follow-up and the obtaining of background information that I did in preparation for the meeting today.
Thank you. Awesome. I have one more. With your experience from Alameda County and just to kind of give some feedback, our focus points and recommendations, our gaps that we've noticed are in housing, behavioral health, employment, pre and post release, focusing on like women, and different areas. Just based on your experience at Alameda County, is there what feedback you can give in reference to the gaps that we've noticed or even just share some of your experiences or things that you uplifted and done when you were Alameda County around those key areas?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, what I'd be interested in knowing is what the outcomes of the current programming are. Certainly I think that what's been highlighted and supported by the Community Advisory Board aligns with similar needs that there were and there are in Alameda County. Housing, mental health services specifically, and then gender specific or gender responsive services for women tend to be, the high point areas that I think that we need to have some focused attention on, but we also need to make sure that there's funding, recommended and provided to programs and services that are working. So I would first be interested in seeing, what exactly is funded, what outcome data is available, how the program's been evaluated. That's something that's still needed to be done in a formal way in Alameda County. As you're probably familiar, there's a lot of money that is set aside and invested in community-based programs, yet there's still a need to do formal evaluations of those programs. And so I'd be interested in knowing if that has been done here. And if it has, certainly we should look at what can be done to enhance and expand those programs that are working, and then take a look at those that may not be meeting the needs or getting the outcomes that are necessary, and what can be done to tweak those programs or to look at a different approach as far as addressing those needs and services.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your response. Those are the information that you shared. Those were my only questions.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions from the board members? I think we have a hand in the audience on Zoom. Unmute yourself. Ready?
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, great. I'm in the middle of class, so I have a few minutes. I just wanted to share, first of all, Mr. DeWall doesn't know that I plan to attend. My name's Raymond Banks. I'm a former member of Alameda CAB, and recommend that Marcus DeWall be accepted to the Contra Costa CAB for the following 3 reasons. Mr. DeWall's admittance to the Contra Costa CAB would be a perfect step towards deepening the relationship between both CABs, Alameda County and Contra Costa County. While a CAB member, Mr. DeWall acted upon a CAB recommendation, which held because of the lack of permanent housing and emergency housing due to COVID is a barrier to successful reentry. The CAB posits that an increase in funding is appropriate. In other words, the CAB requests that $1 million go directly to women and women with children and their dependents, according to a presentation by Housing. 84% of all resources go towards men. Mr. DeWall was instrumental in making sure that CAB recommendation went through. And then finally, Mr. DeWall protected Black women in his employ from harassment by members of the reentry and realignment community. I don't want to go into detail, but he stood up for some of the women that were being harassed and took the appropriate steps. And it is for the above reasons I recommend Marcus DeWall to the CAB. I have to head back to class. I'm in the middle of class right now. I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Banks. We appreciate your input. Are there any other questions? from our audience, Zoom? Did I miss any questions from our board members? Remarks? Input? Well, I would like to reiterate fact of reading the application, also with inquiries and vetting and asking other individuals who have the experience. I feel that definitely very qualified to be a part of this board. That's a tremendous asset. It brings a lot to the table, the experience, the decades of experience, and definitely I understand the passion. It takes passion for individuals to retire and then want to return into their areas of expertise. As a leader, it's very evident, and that's something that we need. We need that voices. We need the empowerment and lifting up of our women. That's one of the focuses that we place. That is very important. Women and children be primary focuses, though not the entire focus. But I'm definitely very happy to have reviewed that application. Moving forward. Is there any other discussion for approval?
Disagree with you. I second that. I really enjoyed reading his application and the opportunity to bring. And the extra information he gave right now just heightened what I was already feeling. And I appreciate the gentleman coming on and providing information. It ties into what our programs and services team is working on. And I mean, I'm excited for him to be a part of that, or hopefully be a part of it.
Thank you for that. Anything else to be said? If not, we're going to move to a vote. I'm going to ask Garyana for instructions here. Do we need a motion for a
Yeah,
vote?
so you call for a motion and then ask for a second.
Thank you.
Do we have any members online?
No members are online.
You just for ayes and nays here.
Yes, we're looking for a motion for acceptance of Mr. DeWall.
A motion that we move forward with the vote of consideration for Marcus to be on the board.
And this is Nicole. I'll second the motion.
Garyana, will you help with the roll call?
Yes, I could take a roll call vote.
You don't need to, since there's nobody online. It's up to you though.
Okay. Ozzy, do you still want me to move forward with the roll call vote, or should I do it the first way?
All in favor?
Okay. All in favor of approving Marcus DeWall for new membership to be considered by CCP. All in favor say yes, or raise your hand.
Yes.
Any objections? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Jill?
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't
And
want to
thank-
comment on that. That's, I'm excited that you guys have another member. I just wanted to let you know I pulled the roster from your retreat, and just so everybody's aware, you have 2 members from Central, 3 members from East, and 5 members from West, and 2 regular vacancies and 3 alternate vacancies. So with the recommendation for this one, put you at 4 members of East, and then the other applicant is from West, which would put you 6 members of West. So what I'm asking you all to do is to reach out to your Central County supervisors, which would be Supervisor Carlson in District 4 and Supervisor Glover in District 5, and ask them to advertise the seats. We have been running the advertisement in our news blast every week for some time now. But it would really be great to have more Central County voices to balance out. You have 3 vacant alternate seats, so you have space on your board to do that.
Okay, thank you for that, Jill. Moving forward to the next item on our agenda. We are in for a treat. We have a presentation from the GEMA project. And if you'll turn to pages 19 to 34, attachment 3, I would like to welcome our presenters.
Do you want me to stay here or is there another place I feel bad that I'm behind folks.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Around a face, it's okay, yeah.
Well, I'll turn it over first to my co-founder who's actually online and has to log off, I think at 11. So I'd love for her to start us out, if that's possible, Laura.
Okay, very good.
Hi,
Well,
everyone.
thank you so-
Thank you for having us. And I'm sorry, I'm in New York City right now, and I'm grateful Cynthia's there to present the GEMA project. I just wanted to introduce myself and then introduce her to present to you. I am the co-founder with Cynthia of the GEMA project. It is based on an original model of the GEMA program that was done in the Santa Cruz County Jail, created by women in jail who were able to tell people what they needed to reenter. I am a graduate of that original program, so I'm here as a co-founder with lived experience. I'm also a literary agent, and I wrote a memoir about my experience in jail and in reentry, which is a current Oprah Book Club pick. So that's why I'm in New York City right now. And I'm really happy and proud to be leading, a national conversation around the experiences of women in incarceration, gender and trauma responsive services, and the difficulties and challenges of reentry, which I lived firsthand. And so I'm just very grateful that you're all here to meet with us, and I'm happy to answer any questions if they're in like 2 minutes. Unfortunately, I have to run, but Cynthia will be able to talk about the GEMA project further, and then I'm available after over email or another time to contribute what I can. But I'm very grateful that we're focusing on the needs of women. I know they're a small percentage, but that in a fast growing percentage, and 80% of women in jail are mothers, like I was, who are struggling as mothers, trying to not lose their children to the foster care system, and to reenter and rebuild their lives with a lot of, I think, unnecessary obstacles and barriers and lack of support to do that. And I'm speaking of someone who went through it with all the privilege of being a middle-class white woman with a master's degree before I was incarcerated. And what I found was not only all of the ways in which we're expected to pay forever and generations are expected to pay, but how difficult it is to re-enter with all of the privilege, some family support, some education. And what was most surprising to me, and I talk about a lot on a national platform, was how easy how easy it is to go back to jail for never committing another crime, and at times how much safer I would have felt back in jail while I was reentering. So I'll turn it over to Cynthia, and I just appreciate all listening and that I could be here for a little bit of this.
Great. Thank you so much for having us here today. And thank you for scheduling this. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it is Women's History Month. So it's good that we're talking about that. This month in particular, I have filled your agenda with statistics. And I won't go through all of them. Do you want me to move some out behind you? I can do that. I can sort of move this way at least so that I'm sort of facing most of you. I'm sorry, I am not sick. I do have terrible allergies. I have cough drops here. I'm not going to infect any of you. If you need cough drops, I have them to share. And so I'm happy to pass them around. Somebody's nodding. Here you go. Yes, they're the good ones. Yeah, good stuff. So thank you so much for having us here today to talk about gender responsive services. We understand that's something that you're already interested in. I started with the definitions in our PowerPoint with gender specific, informed, and responsive very intentionally, because most of the times, in fact, jails are quite good at this, they do gender specific things, right? So that just means they divide folks who identify as men and folks who identify as women. And that's usually where things stop. And so what we're hoping to do in our conversation with everybody that we can have it with is really bring people through the process of understanding that gender specific just means you've divided folks into groups. It doesn't mean you've done anything else beyond that. So we want to start folks getting into at least being gender informed and ideally being gender responsive, which means that you're taking into consideration that men and women have very different pathways into the justice system. They also have very different needs. They have very different histories, and they have very different things that they need when they get out. There are definitely similarities, right? We know that poverty is a huge issue for anybody who's dealing with incarceration. We know race and LGBTQ identification matter because of way overrepresentation. But we want to talk about what tends to be about 10 to 13% of the total population. In Contra Costa County, it's actually 14%. Of women who are in custody and the needs that they have. So I'm not, like I said, the stats are there. Please use them. I have references for all of them. I'm not going to read them all to you, but it is a growing population. So incarceration rates for women have grown at twice the pace of men's. Over the last 30 years, it's increased 750%. Most of that is represented in jails, not prisons. And while rates have dropped for men, they've actually increased for women. So when reentry and services are being provided to roughly 90% of the population, it actually has not very big. It's had some positive impact on men, but it's actually not helping women at all. So this is the thing where when we think about gender neutral or just dividing populations, we're actually not helping women when we do that. We are helping men in a negligible way, but we're not helping women. So we need to think about how do you start to identify very intentional, very specific services designed for women and that are meeting the needs that they have. So we know there's a long history of instability. So women tend to come from homes where there is a lot of intergenerational poverty. There also is a lot of involvement in the child welfare system. Lots of women are homeless in prior to going to jail. So if you look at the numbers, while men also experience homelessness, women is much higher for women. And we also know that women have the added challenge of childcare, right? So most women who go into jail, about 80%, are mothers. Most are parenting an average 2.5 children. This is one of those things where on the next slide, well, next and the following slide, thank you, Ariana, for all that. I'm assuming it's Ariana hiding somewhere and who's advancing the slides, and I appreciate that. So these numbers are pretty startling. So 80% of women have in jail have minor children, right? So where are these children going when they are women are often sole and some primary or sole caregivers for these children? We know what happens. They end up oftentimes going into child welfare. Because women actually spend more time in jail pre and post adjudication, that child welfare timeline starts, and they're not coordinating that, right? So as soon as that timeline begins, and every day that child and those children are away from their primary caregiver or their family, we're having intergenerational impacts. So the things that you see that come out of that is that 1/5 of the prison population is comprised of former fostering. 1/5. That's a significant number, and that is directly tied to mothers not being able to care for their children. This also is way overrepresented for Black mothers. So while we see that about 34% of children in foster care had an incarcerated parent, that jumps to 43% for Black moms. And the next slide, this is one again, quite startling. Nothing on this page around trauma and abuse goes below 80%. Right, so that means that like every time we talk about histories of trauma, abuse, neglect, intimate partner violence, domestic violence, the incarcerated or justice involved population of women, 80% is the lowest that you see, right? So 80% of women are survivors of intimate partner violence, 90% are survivors of sexual violence. This is a lot of trauma. And this is a lot of impact and a lot of need. when we think about what's happening prior to coming into jail and then what happens in the incarceration setting, right? There's nothing that is trauma responsive. In fact, it's quite re-triggering to be in that setting and to have no choice and no ability to keep yourself safe. And a very, very troubling stat on that is that women who are incarcerated are 30 times more likely to be sexually assaulted than women who are not incarcerated. Let that sit there for a minute. And there is no such thing as consent in any carceral setting. So poverty and income inequality, we know that folks who are involved, justice system involved, have long histories oftentimes of poverty, lower educational and attainment and employment opportunities, but even magnified more for women. Women are paid less. They are oftentimes not caring for children, right? So they don't have opportunities for to be able to afford resources, to afford things that their male counterparts might. They also have, again, childcare. So if they were to get a job, so they have income, who's going to take care of the children? And we also know what childcare costs look like. Poverty is the strongest predictor of recidivism. Again, it's not a personal failure on her. It's not a mental health challenge, even though we know that's significant. It's income. I know you have a great presentation happening tomorrow on a guaranteed basic income thing. I'm going to be here for that too, because I'm really excited about that, because that could make a huge difference systemically as you think about women and what gets them into the system and gets them out. So intersectionality, I talked about this. We know that rates for pretty much everything, worse for Black women and Latina women. Also, LGBTQ folks are overrepresented at every single stage of the system, every decision making that happens. There's overrepresentation, including juvenile. Trying to move back, and I want to be able to get to what we do. Why has this happened? So, lots of things that I talked about. It's multifaceted and complex. The system is set up to serve 90% males and always has been. And so then a lot of times they just, and I'll tell you, I worked for corrections in Santa Cruz County. I understand what it's like. I had 17 units and 2 classrooms and 1 converted laundry room. And 17 units can't mix with each other, right? So I get it. There are challenges logistically for programming and services. But the fact is that this is a growing population. It's a very specific, we know what women need. We just don't prioritize it, honestly. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And women also respond really pretty well to programming. They want help. They want to use it. They are much more willing to take advantage of programming. They just need programming that works. So that's actually what got Gemma to be born. Gemma was born, as Lara said, in the jail. It was designed by women who were incarcerated. They had come in and out of jail many times, sometimes graduating programs several times. But these were programs that were designed for men, right? So women dutifully did them, but they didn't meet their needs. They weren't speaking their language, right? So this is how the women in jail said, like, we'll do another program, but why don't you send us to a program that's made for us? And we'll tell you what we need. And so that's how Gemma was designed, along with researchers who looked at what works and what kinds of things are needed, what kind of things make situations worse for women. And so it was founded. I was the original director of that program when Laura went through it. We had a day program, a continuing care program, and a transitional house. The name Gemma was chosen by the women who designed the program, and it means a bud ready to grow independently. And so when Laura wrote her memoir, we decided that we wanted more women to take advantage of this program. We wanted more women to have access to it. It's not rocket science. It really isn't. We know what works. We have the data to show it's successful. Gemma participants had a 40% reduction in recidivism. This is just participants. This isn't graduates only. This is just women who went through the program. Some of them only did a portion of the program, right? So really significant reductions in recidivism, which is important for crime stats. But what we're also really interested in is what does quality of life look like? Do you have support? Do you have a network? Do you have food? Do you have safe housing? Do you have clean water? Are you accessing health for yourself, healthcare for yourself and your children? Do you have educational and employment opportunities? So we're looking at things that are looking at the whole person for a long time And are they able to stay in their community and also not go back to jail? So we have 3 components of our program: a day program, which starts in custody and follows women out into the community. That is the most successful model. It is offered almost nowhere in jails and prisons across the country. It's hard to get into the jail, I will tell you. There's an adjacent county that it makes it almost impossible to do. And for some good reasons and some other reasons. That is the best model. We know reentry has to start basically as soon as you are booked and needs to follow you as you leave. And the data is very clear on that. Most programs start after folks are released. So our program does both. We also provide support to women for up to 18 months. Usually people say, why are you ending it at 18 months? A lot of times women just have not wanted it or needed it longer. They stay connected, but they just don't need that level of support for a lot longer than that. We will certainly continue working if they want to. And then we provide one-on-one therapy as well as group therapy, because that is something that, while women do have high levels of exposure to trauma and PTSD, that's not really appropriate to do therapy in the jail setting. And so we do make sure that that's available if they want to take advantage of that when they get out. So individualized support. Also, the continuity of care of the same folks we're working with inside to outside really matters, because people need to have a network of support. Trust is a really hard thing to build and maintain with histories of trauma and histories of justice involvement. So having that same person with you is really has much better outcomes. So we're hoping that we will be able to launch here in Contra Costa County. We are working with the County Office of Education in partnership with what they're doing in the jail as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I'm not sure if we still have Laura. She probably had to jump off, but anything that you want to talk about, Nicole, yes, ma'am.
So I'm really excited about the work that you're going to do inside of the jails. And I heard you say a lot of different key things here. So I was trying to write down notes as you were saying them. So one of my, and I may go back and forth because I was trying to catch them on the side. So one of the key things that stood out to me is, I know that your guys, women are setting their footprint here in Contra Costa County now, and it's starting off inside of testing. So in reference to the continuum of care part of it, have there been any footwork already in reference to collaborating with outside partners?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So what's key there, we want to be complementary, not competitive with groups who already exist. And we know that there are folks that exist who are doing the work. So again, County Office of Ed and Men and Women of Purpose are already inside doing reentry services. Rubicon is doing some work. We know that there's the reentry centers. So all of that should be collaborative. There's space for all of us to be here doing this. What we hope is that if folks are gender informed, which many of the folks I named are, we hope that everything can be elevated to also be gender responsive.
That was the reason for the question, not more around the collaborative, is more of helping the programs get more gender informed. What you're providing is great, but one of the barriers that we run across in reference to women is they're not open to the programs that we have. So in reference to continuum of care, it's great to be able to connect to the providers that we have, but we also have the same problem, right?
Yeah.
So there could be but when they get out, we're still taking with the same problem.
Yeah.
So a lot of our providers, like for example, Men and Women Purpose, they work really hard to be able to help the women, but STEM, of course, and so on, but they run for the same thing, housing. So our programs right now for women are not structured properly to be able to provide the assistance. So I guess my main question is how can the GEMA program come to Contra Costa County and help our current programs or provide information on how we can uplift them better? The majority of our houses and stuff, they don't, it's not. It's not, my story is just like her. So they're not structured for, and that's one of the reasons that I found that women did not want to go to the program. They're not structured for them to survive. There's not a clear understanding of what the need is.
Yeah, I mean, you answered a lot of
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm very
it's-
passionate.
No, I mean, I think so. This is the important thing that you're elevating, right? Is that a lot of times, because women are a smaller percentage of the population, the programs that exist and the services are just expanded that already are there for men, and they're given to women. And then the system says, oh, but women aren't using them.
Right.
But it's not actually that, right? There are things that don't feel safe right? So I had a great conversation with an adjacent unnamed county about a reentry hub that was created. And I asked the providers, brand new, like, do women feel safe here? Do women come here? But they're like, well, look, there's 3 women right now who are here. And I'm like, awesome. And I went and I talked to them. I said, do you feel safe here? And she's like, no. Like, didn't even hesitate to say like, no, but like, it's a place to come do my laundry. And if I know so-and-so is here, then I'll come. But like, the spaces that we create, we can't just assume that they're going to be places that feel welcoming, safe, and inviting to women. Right, so we hope to either create new spaces or if we can, to modify existing spaces that in a way that they become fun. They feel safe coming, that they also, and it is, being gender responsive actually means it is the whole space. It is the lighting, it is the transportation, it's the person who greets you. Is there somebody who greets you? Is the door locked when you get there? Like, there's all kinds of things. Is it a mixed use space? Are kids allowed? Like, who are the folks who are serving you and meeting your needs? What is their, like, do they represent the folks who are coming to receive the services? So all of that has to be taken into consideration if we want women to be successful.
I don't know if she left, it really touched home when she talked about being someone that was incarcerated with degrees and privilege. And it hit home for me because I am a woman that was incarcerated with several degrees. I didn't have a privilege. So none of my degrees mattered for me when I got out. So how do we uplift people to understand there is a small percentage of women that, yes, they do fall in this category, but there's another woman where life happens. And I was looking at that. And no matter what they've done, that could have been perfect. Once they get to this point, it doesn't work. So all this data that you guys provided just is very important. I'm glad that you're expanding in other counties. So how do we uplift that to get people to need? Because it was hard.
Yeah. Specifically for women who have like educational and.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I love this, but yes, also because there is a small bunch of women that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the fact that we start with talking about it, right? I mean, this has been growing. This is not new, right? Like 750% increase is massive, but this has been happening over 3 decades. The trend has been consistently up for 3 decades, right? Now we're talking about it. Hopefully we can keep the conversation going. We can start talking about women are this, right? And then subsets of those women, right? Because like, it's not monolithic. Right. So I think that you can talk about, and there are definitely a fair amount of women who do have higher education, right? Like kind of more the white collar crimes it tends to be in that area. But yeah, I think we need to start talking about women, justice system impacted and involved anyway. And then once that conversation starts, then we start talking about all the different subsets there and how we can elevate all of those to things.
Yeah, I hope my questions don't talk to you all day.
Fantastic. I could do this all day, but I know you have other business to do.
I have a question in regards to the slide that talked about the ladies that are incarcerated are 30% more likely. Is that with other, like with their bunkie or their cellmate? Is that with staff? Is it like in secluded areas? Are we aware of why there's a higher percentage?
Yes, and I think I knew the actually the specific link to that study. It's both.
Okay.
So, but it is my recollection of that particular study. It is definitely male officers. I think 3/4 of officers in institutions are male. Yeah. So it is primarily in this study officers with inmates.
Okay.
But there also is things that are happening with bunkies and things like that. That tends to not get as reported as much or investigated as much. Yeah, but I can get you the study, absolutely. Yeah.
No, you could have answered it, maybe I missed it.
I talked back.
So when you go outside the jail, what exactly do you do?
Great question. I actually have handouts on that too. I think there's enough for everybody. How are we doing on time, Chair? I don't want to monopolize. Okay. So I will pass these out. So the way that it's originally designed, and it's changing a little bit because lengths of stay are changing. So we were originally designed 10 weeks, really high intensity. So 3 days a week, 4 hours a day. It's a lot. It's like going to like college, basically. So I think that will need to be modified for Contra Costa because I think one, like actual space is limited, but not unlike most jails. But also I think that there is not actually time in the schedule. So we can modify that a little bit. We still want to be more than just, you know, an hour a day. This really is fairly intensive work. It's a combination of things. So we do a lot of the really practical reentry based skills in the sort of reentry domains, is what we call them, which are kind of things you would anticipate: housing, transportation, food, medical, like how are you coordinating with probation? Are you also on parole? Is there child welfare involved? Like all that kind of stuff. Education, employment. So we do the reentry things, but we also do a lot of the things that the women have said that they needed, right? Like it's really more about dealing with the coping skills and all of those kinds of things that are tied to histories, traumatic histories, and how to move through the system, how to advocate for yourself, how to communicate, like, I don't feel safe going to that place, or I need help with, right? Instead of disappearing, right? Fight or flight kind of stuff that happens a lot of times. Like talking about how do you integrate the psychological things that are happening for you with the things that you have to do as part of reentry, right? Like you're going to be triggered. Let's anticipate that. So the reason why we do a lot of frequency is that we introduce a skill, we practice the skill, we talk about it, they do homework, they come back, they're really preparing, not just by talking about it, by actually role playing things, preparing their reentry plan, identifying like what's my biggest trigger when I have to go to the benefits office, right? That's never a fun experience for anybody. So like, what do we do to prepare for that? Like, do you need somebody to go with you? That's where care providers come in. Like, do you have somebody who actually literally goes and sits in that terrible waiting room and stays through the difficult conversation? So all of those kinds of things are combined. We'll modify it because we know we can't be in there with the amount of time that we'd like to be. We also want to look at what else is being offered. So we don't want to duplicate. There's also another great provider who's there doing some good stuff. Want to like use that. We're also going to see how we could use the tablets. We are advocates for tablets, not replacing, but supplementing work that's already being done. Human to human has to exist inside, but where tablets can be used, I think, is like we could give you an assignment, you could read through it, you come to group, we talk about it, we role play it, right? So there could be some out of classroom work that we can use with the tablets so that we still can continue to advance. And we also know that women that nowadays mostly have shorter stays than they used to, which is good. But we want to maximize our time with them there.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, women that, some women are just in there for like 30 days. So what can you offer someone just in there for just 30 days?
Yep, so basically we're gonna abbreviate everything. We go through the reentry domains that we have and we identify like, let's get everything that we can get going in place, but also we have to incorporate those coping skills. Like these women they know how to do a resume. They like all the logistical things. If it was just filling that stuff out, they'd already be doing it and they'd stay out, right? It's really how do you integrate the things you got to do as part of reentry, which feels like a constant uphill battle with all the things that are happening for you psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, right? All of that stuff that comes up that ends up taking women down at a greater rate than it takes men down. Right. So like those are the kinds of things that we do. And so we'll like expand and contract based on how long we've got.
You'll raise hand up.
I'm fine waiting till all the CAB members ask their questions. I just threw my hand up so that you knew I had a question.
Sorry.
Everybody done? Cynthia,
Go ahead.
Cynthia, this is super exciting. And I'm just wondering, you've been around our county for a while. Are you tapped into what's going on with Cal-AIM? I know the justice population is a year or so out, but this sounds exactly what we are hoping to do with Cal-AIM and provide funding to you for that as well.
Well, I love that answer, Jill Ray. That is our hope. And so we're trying to figure out now how to tap into the Cal-AIM funds because I know that is something that Colleen should be covering. So if you have recommendations, connections that you can make with health or others who are working on the Colleen work, we'd love to do that. We also have the capacity to do time studies and do Medi-Cal administrative activities funding, which a lot of counties don't utilize, but it's money, it's on the table. So we're happy to do those kinds of things too, even though it's extremely tedious, but it's money. So we'll take it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Nicole, I believe, is on the work group for the county. Is that Nicole Green? To work on Calhoun. Lavana Martin is the one to connect you with. And I'm just, Patrice, I'm wondering if you can connect.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, and there's a few of the was it Contra Costa Health Plan, Kaiser, and
Yeah, Jamie has her. She's
okay, great, because Jamie could probably speak to
gotta be another person.
try to reach out to those folks to better understand the process. So that way, as our existing providers and potentially newer ones, because I believe at the last Cal pre-release work that I attended, even in January, there was a call out for wanting to meet one-on-one with providers. So anywho,
I think
communication can happen and coordination can definitely take place, to answer the question directly.
Jamie, you can add some extra notes to it, but I believe, and she can double check for the providers. I believe that's what that I don't say the wrong thing, went out for the provider list, but I believe reach out to you in reference to providers for that, for H3 for more information.
Yeah,
I'm trying
definitely.
to see that.
Sorry, yes. And then I have a question, but yes, definitely I can be a point of contact for H3, Health, Housing, and Homeless Services. Can I put a question in
yes.
the Q&A. But just wondered if you could talk a little bit about the housing supports that might be possible through your program. As I said, I'm with Health, Housing, and Homeless Services and always interested in housing or shelter options that are, funding through other programs.
Yeah, so it's the biggest need. We know it's the biggest need. I actually was just at Chowchilla at the California Women's Facility there, which, just a little point of fact, largest prison in the world in California for women. So I'm meeting with women there and I asked them about their reentry needs, and the number one, not surprisingly, was housing. So we did have a house associated or affiliated with Gemma when we were originally in Santa Cruz. It took us 6 years to get that house. So what we're hoping to do is see if we can partner with housing providers who are already doing this work, because we don't have 6 years to try to get housing. And so any connections that we can get so that we have, I love nodding her head, that built specifically for gender responsive housing, it's huge. It's a game changer. And we need to think about both women with children and women without children. And because that's another big triggering thing. A lot of the women who are justice involved have lost their children. They're not going to get them back. And then they're housed with women with children. And it is extremely triggering and challenging for them. So we need to be able to have separate housing so that we can support all women regardless of where they are in their parenting journey. And we are looking for partners on all of that. We'll co-write grants, whatever it takes. But we know that that's probably a faster pathway to housing than if we were to try to stand it up on our own.
Quick question. You said that participants are connected to staff for up to 18 months. What does that look like outside?
So it's your kind of reentry programming starts inside. So that same person who maybe put your reentry plan together, they stay with you for one-on-one meetings. So sometimes that's the going to the benefits office together. It's meeting and putting together a resume or updating that, and getting clothing for interviews. It's going to court with you as support if you need that. That also includes, as part of continuing care, the one-on-one therapy if they want it. They don't have to have it. There's also reentry groups that happen every week. So then they'll like pick a topic and go over what, what they need to do. So it's a continuation of what starts inside. It's reinforcing. And so if you're kind of think about it as advancing goes from beginner, intermediate, advanced kind of thing. And the idea is that we also want to create a community because women are more relational, right? We actually heal better. All humans heal better in connection, but women in particular really do benefit from that community and that network that's safe. So we want to create that continuity of care so that they're just meeting with the same providers, but also some of the same women that they might have been in cycle.
I guess I'm kind of curious, are participants going to your physical site?
Yeah, so if we need to establish a site that is specifically ours, that is gender responsive, we will create that. We're trying to see now if there's spaces that we can use that exist, that women feel safe going to and receiving services. So we're exploring and open to all of those options. Absolutely.
I would have a couple of questions. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for the presentation. And I must always give a disclaimer. Very triggering for me, having been justice impacted and lost my children to the system because there were no programs available that were, where there were processes available, but so many variables in my life and things of that nature, my children were eventually taken. And it took probably the last 15 years to reestablish those relationships. I'm still in that process just because of the detriment of the things that happened when I was in custody 40 years ago. So I still have residual. So I'm giving the disclaimer of this being triggering for me. I'm glad that the project, you have it, it's in place. One of my questions is the relaunch. And I'm understanding that you were a graduate?
No, Laura was a graduate, I was the director.
You were the director. So could you give me a little of that history, the relaunch? And also my second question kind of ties into that. The model replication with technical assistance across the country kind of tie into the question of brick and mortar space that you might have to have your services available where individuals could actually come to. But I understand that you're going to establish that venue upon seeing the necessities of those things.
Okay, so the first question, so yes, so Gemma started in Santa Cruz County. I was the original director there. Laura went through the program. And what was the replication of that? So we are not affiliated with that program anymore. We decided to relaunch that model that was designed by the women who were there along with researchers in other places. So we're not, I left that program, running that program a few years ago and didn't think I was going to be going back. Then Laura wrote the book and I'm like, okay, we have this opportunity. We really need to use this platform to get attention. Thank you. I can also roll around too. It's okay. So the intention is then to have a model site that we are able to run ourselves from soup to nuts, basically, and have that be the place that other jurisdictions could come and visit and learn from. And so that's the technical assistance part of it. So we're in conversation with several actually other counties in California, but also Boise, Idaho, Houston, Texas, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Cleveland, Ohio, Hawaii as a state we're talking to, and also South Carolina, and I can't remember the city. Because the idea is that, again, not rocket science, we want to be able to teach, other jurisdictions how to do this, use the resources they have, build on what might be gender informed or gender specific, and elevate that to being gender responsive. And then to really tailor it to their community's needs. Because, we also know that there are strengths that need to be uplifted that do exist in communities, and we shouldn't be coming in and telling folks exactly how to do that. They need to put their fingerprints on it. But there's also some things that we know have been researched and proven to be effective over and over and over that are not being used.
And my final question would be whether or not you have a data platform where you're capturing your information or services provided specifically for clients and demographics as well, property security, variables being ethnicity. Their, maybe offenses might be something that's personal, but the criteria where we can access that to see what the numbers are saying. Data.
So we collect demographic data and outcome data for anybody who's going through the program. We also try to get, and usually can, if they can't do it, we actually try not to partner with them, get MOUs with probation at least. If not also the jail, so that we can get recidivism data, because we want to be able to show that. We know that that's not actually for women the most important thing, honestly, to track, but it is something that in criminal justice settings people are tracking, so we need to be able to track it. We won't have access unless we get that MOU or agreement. So we do have, we have a data person on our staff whose job is to do that and get that in place so that we can report outcomes.
I have another question.
Yeah.
And sorry if I missed it in here. You had any numbers on how many women that you deal with tied to mental health and substance abuse, and how does your program help?
I was actually reading bios and I saw, I think it was in yours, maybe somebody else said that was a particular interest. And I'm like, oh, I cut that out of there. There's so much information. There's so many stats on this. Yes. So mental health and co-occurring disorders is significantly higher for women in custody than men. Some of it is about reporting, but some of it is absolutely tied to all the trauma. Many women are self-medicating trauma with substances, right? Men do it as well. But because the rates are much higher for women, we see that and that complicated relationship there. The vast majority come in with, I would say, disorders, substance use, and mental health, with the mental health being the underlying issue. Many of them actually find it less difficult to deal with the substance issue, right? Because all of a sudden they're finally talking about the root causes, right? And that's actually the main thing that we find for justice involved women, is that they thought they were addicts. They went through 12-step, identified as addicts, and they were like, oh, but I've also been trying not to feel the pain of, you know, decades of abuse, neglect, all the things, right? So once they start dealing with that, I don't feel a need actually to use something to that, right? So it changes the whole way they think about themselves, the way they relate to the world, the way they move through the world, and the way that they develop coping skills around that, right? And that's a big piece of it that's often missing when you just give a one-size-fits-all program to women and hope they'll be able to do it. They can do the mechanics, right? But they're not actually dealing with it.
Have you already connected to any of the behavioral health county individuals?
We need to create those relationships, so can Anna help with that? Love it. Yes,
There's
absolutely.
always a reason for my question.
Of course. Not just curiosity. No, absolutely.
I have a question. One, thank you for all of the information and guidance. I think it's really great to raise up these statistics and create space to have a dialogue. So thank you. As many CBOs are trying to provide the best services that they can, specifically for these populations, and as your organization is working to find like a home county or an area where you can launch all three aspects of this program. Is there a way to utilize your expertise and your background in providing technical assistance in like sort of an assessment, guidance, recommendation to CBOs who are already in a county performing?
100%. Yeah. I mean, all of us, right, again, like we want to be complementary, not competitive. And so there's great providers who are in this space. And the fact is, it's like 90% of the population is male, right? Folks are getting funded to do that, right? And so then they're also serving women, right? Like it's not, there's no ill intent, but from anybody, I don't think, in that scenario. So like having this conversation today and saying, we can't just give this cookie cutter to women and think it's going to work. Let's figure out how we can all elevate our game, really, and like show up for women in a way where we're speaking their language, we're giving them the things that they need. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I really appreciate.
I'll be back tomorrow. I'll bring more coffee up. I will also say, I have a very lengthy, and I don't share it with everyone because everyone's like, nobody can read that, but some people do, almost 30-something page white paper that has all this data and all my sources. I'm happy to share it with the CAB if you want to have that. It's even more, it's all the things you saw in the presentation, but it's even more than that. And it does, Nicole, go more into the mental health histories and things like that. So, yeah, and it's got all the sources.
Thank you
Example of the whole thing.
And time check,
Time check.
20 minutes from.
Thank you. Moving on to our next item, number 6, a debrief of the ambassadors' meeting reports, attachment 4, see page 35. And I'm going to turn this over to our committee subcommittee chair to walk us through the debriefing. The debriefing of the ambassadors' meetings.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So highlights of our ambassadors meeting here. We kind of reviewed everything with some points. More mental health resources.
Just, we can't hear. We can't hear you, Julius. I think you're too far back.
There's actually a chair right there.
Hi, everyone. I just want to give a little overview. We had all the meetings, 2023, all the ambassador meetings of our members that went out and gathered information. And we took some time to go through all of them and try to pull out some highlights and things that we really want to focus on, and things that came up that were mentioned multiple times so that we can zero in on how we can best serve people that we are supposed to serve. And some of the highlights that came up were more mental health resources and services in the community. This came up several times. Improve employment outcomes for justice impacted population. Improving communication of services in the community. In other words, a lot of people really don't know what's actually out there. Conducting an inventory of services within the county to develop an understanding of what services exist and avoid duplicating already existing services. For example, but as we share, as Cynthia was sharing today, we know that we are in an age where people are looking to work collaboratively. So that's something else that we're really trying to pull out, is how multiple CBOs and organizations work together for the same cause. But one way of doing that is really trying to get an inventory of who actually does what, so we can try to make those things not overlap, but complement instead of overlap. Providing cultural training of the justice impacted individuals to ensure staff understands the culture of those in custody. Hiring staff with more lived experience to work work with those in custody and out of custody. Collaborating with social workers to understand the needs of the reentry population. Evaluate programs to determine their level of impact in the community. Again, as there are many organizations, some that we don't know, exactly what they're doing. I think also the data and approach was something that came up in our review of the ambassador meetings as well. Speaking more to that. Developing a continuum of care for the reentry population. Provide more parental support and strengthening to families with individuals who are incarcerated. Conduct community outreach to understand the needs and identify the existing problems within the community. Issues with SSI and or the reentry population accessing or obtaining their benefits. Develop better core teams, process and teams. Provide more financial literacy to the reentry population. Provide peer mentoring to help reduce recidivism. Follow up on care court, i.e. Supervisor Burgess. Care court connects a person struggling with untreated mental illness and often also substance use challenges with court-ordered care plan for up to 24 months. So this is something that specifically came up in that ambassador meeting that we wanted to highlight. And again, we were really grateful that that was something additional that was brought up. Again, a lot of these overlap, but this is one that specifically came up in this meeting. Follow up with Family First Prevention Services, i.e. Marla Stewart with EHSD, a law that enhances the support services for families to help children remain at home, reduces the unnecessary use of congregate care, builds the capacity of communities to support children and families. And follow up with the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice to share CAB's ideas and goals. So again, I know I've said it several times, but what was really good is that many of these were, they came up in several of the meetings. So it's good to see that there is some uniformity and really knowing what the needs are, and hopefully with what we're doing and bringing things together, we can, you know, really unify and get some results. If that makes sense. We have any questions or comments?
Thanks for the work in summarizing this. My question would just be on the follow-up, so see them outlined at the bottom. Do we have next steps built into the calendar and program to address these 3 items, or is that something your subcommittees continue to work on?
That's something we're continuing to work on.
Okay.
With our main goal was first to really take some time to really go through, and so we could, you know, kind of figure out where we really need to go.
Yeah.
Hence the reason why we have the, you know, the follow-up plans here, but we need to actually put the next steps in.
Awesome. Cool. That sounds great. Let us know if we can support.
Absolutely.
I think this is a very helpful format because it also gives us an opportunity when we do our ambassador meetings to get a real glimpse of the things that were covered, and then possibly going back on our this year, be able to go back with some conversation of things that we have accomplished, or things that we met on, or some of the things that we have moving forward in the year to come that we've addressed, and giving that type of feedback. So it's good to keep that collaboration and that information moving so that it doesn't get lost from one year to the next, to keep us all focused and going towards the same objectives and the same goals. Is there any other comments? Questions?
I just want to say thank you for putting this together. When you are able to, like, not any extra work to you, I promise. I'm just more of a visual kind of person.
Okay.
I know that you all are working very, very small mining team, working extremely hard. And when you gather this information, would it be provided somewhere so we won't lose it? Maybe like a spreadsheet that's broken down west, central, east.
That's a great idea.
Thank you. I mean, the reason why I asked is because one thing I've noticed is all the counties are really doing a lot of work. And I want to see everything from one place, like be able to see what's really going on. Because all the counties don't really talk to each other. I wish they did, but they don't. We have great people that do come to our meetings and share different things. There's so much work that's being done in each individual county. And we're trying to capture all of it. So find a way of how, like, program services collecting the data. We're going to start collecting data so that we can leave something for those that come behind us. It'll be awesome. Thank you both.
No, absolutely. And we really need to put together like as I think saying, like a toolkit based on the work that we have done.
Okay.
Because a lot of these, again, it's a lot of extra work, additional work that needs to go in identifying who's doing what, and that takes time.
Right.
We need a couple more ambassadors.
Right, I agree. No, I agree.
But it's essential because you know, I'm flexing again what was said about the collaborative efforts. We really need to see who's doing what and how people can work together, because there are some people that are doing great work, but it's just not meeting all the needs.
Right.
Especially as we get down into specific population. Discuss women today, even with that, so many subcategories came up, you know, and so that's one thing that looking to seriously at least put something in place so that we can have another work plan for as we continue the work this year.
There's programs that are out there don't even know they exist, that are doing work and have no idea about this platform at all.
This is true.
Right? So
we discussed that.
Yeah, I know.
You know, we.
I know. I'm
Discussing that.
happy for, I know you guys doing
Yeah.
some amazing work.
Yeah, they're out there. It's like, I mean, there's so
Small
many different
teams,
places
so
that
they
don't
can-
know what we do.
Yeah.
And that was one of our objectives, trying to figure out how can we get this information out there to the general public? Because, okay, we know, but like, Julius and I were discussing one time, like, we know there are many organizations that have community boards. And, you know, if we could get it out there so that somebody's walking by. I was at the public library and they have a community board and they had lots of different interesting things on this board. I mean, they had a spot where they said they have, if homeless people need a shower,
Right.
they come and they pick them up and take them to get a shower. Then if they need their clothes washed, they have another somebody. So this is just information that's out there, you know, just on their community board. So that's what we need to try to do, is get our information out there to the public. So we're fine.
It's the reason we have the flyer, which is next on the agenda, or next on the agenda, so that we can do more to get the information out there of what you're doing. And get more community buy-in and support.
Absolutely. And doing the time check, we're gonna move to the flyer. Thank you for Reverend Van Hook.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you.
Likewise.
And moving to item number 7, discuss and finalize the CAB flyer.
So I will say, as we looked at the flyer, we OCEC, we really liked it. We liked the use of color. We like, you know, it's bold and yellow. You know, we like diversity. We like the use of bold and italics, and really just the greenery. It really draws you in. We thought about something, as Brenda was saying, what would stand out on a community board. And you know, we really like those are some of the things we discussed. We also like the QR code, the use of current technology for people to be able to access the information. QR code. So those are some things that stood out to us. Anyone else have any comments on the flyer?
One of the things that we needed to correct or change would be the terms. How long is a commitment? That changed. Also, I have a question. I called the number at the bottom of, refer your questions to CAB's Outreach and Community Engagement Subcommittee. And I just wonder, was that still effective, that phone number?
You know, it was an old Google, it's a Google number. This probably should be changed and just give the ORJ office number.
Are we printing these and sharing them in a non-electronic space? The only reason I raise that up is like a QR code. If there's already a clickable link and someone receives it via email, kind of redundant. But if we're printing it and posting it, like you were saying, at libraries and things, I think a QR code is a good use.
I think it's to like check all the boxes. So definitely for the user being able to use the link directly.
But for those people that access
Community boards or take them, you know, to those types of places.
We are using it that way. Okay, awesome. And then my only other comment is the COVID note at the bottom of the first.
Possibly. All meetings are currently via Zoom. That needs to come on.
Wow.
I think another initiative that we had talked about is like trying to recruit younger people.
Yeah.
I don't know how we adapt that to encourage more people who are younger to participate.
I would be looking at some of the, so I have the privilege of being on another committee and I really like it. I don't know if it's an option for us here, but one of the ways that we gotta think about what the youth needs. So some other boards and committees do provide some type of stipend or income for them to be able to get here. Also keep in mind that they're in schools. There's some key things that we have to look at when I would love to have youth representatives sitting here. but really figuring out what their barriers are and how could we keep them engaged to be here and what their need would be, and can we meet that as a committee? For that. Yeah, was I talking loud enough? Because sometimes I'll mumble, I'm sorry.
You're good.
Okay.
I think that's all right. Possibly what's coming up for me is maybe connecting with some people at the local community colleges, maybe some of the administration of justice or professors, like people that are in their classes. Sometimes they have community service requirements. People that are interested in just administration, just other majors, you know.
What about reaching out to other youth boards and sharing our flyer information within the county and see if they're interested? There are some youth that already participate in other youth activities and boards within the county, uplifting.
Well, I know on the JJCC, we are having a hard time getting younger people. So, which is great. So I've kind of been pondering that. And I know community college is a good idea because there are some ways that the professors can try to work it in.
Okay.
You know.
If I could add, there's a group, a student group, if I'm not mistaken, at Contra Costa College called Rising Scholars.
Yes, yes.
It's a group of folks who are, students who are, justice impacted or formerly incarcerated. That might be a really great connection point there. So I actually just, sent out information on, they have an upcoming event. If you received our newsletters on there, because I can't keep them all. But nonetheless, the Contra Costa College is hosting something with that student group specifically, so that might be an opportunity there.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question too. Okay. You can do it,
Yeah, a couple things on that community college thing. We do have 3 community colleges in our county, so you could always send them out to those teachers who teach anything on criminal justice or any of those types of courses. They also have, certification problems for drug treatment counselors and that sort of thing. But also, I think it's really important to add AB 109 Community Advisory Board on this. Not everybody knows what that is, but you do go into explanation of what this is because Measure X also has a CAB. And so you just want to really clarify that you're the AB 10. In fact, I've had to start adding AB 109 CAB to my calendar entries to not confuse my office as to which meetings I'm in. So I just think it's super important to put that in there because it relates back to really what the mandate is that you guys do.
I say the same thing about AB 109, but also, and I'm not sure if we would have the opportunity to do a flyer that speaks to the young people. Because when I look at this, it doesn't resonate with me, but if I saw the impact or the benefit of me having a voice, or being able to help a family member who has someone that's placed in foster care, then even if I wasn't interested, I would know that someone else would be interested because I would see the benefit of having a voice, either for my family or my community.
One more thing I forgot is the Spirit program that we have in the county. We do the training with some of you may know the Spirit program. So that might be a good place also to distribute the flyers.
That's a really good idea, Jill. I was thinking about that as well. Yeah, yes, you mentioned CCHP, the reentry conductors.
Oh, yes, Transitions Clinic.
Transitions Clinic would be maybe experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes they have younger populations too.
What I'm hearing is that we need to revamp or reconsider the flyer. I'm hearing that we might want to have a secondary flyer that focuses for younger people, younger population. Is that what I'm hearing? For involvement and utilizing the current flyer as a recruitment tool with the amendments that we, and the corrections that we just spoke about? I'm hearing.
So if I can ask a favor, if that's what folks want to move forward with, we can certainly make that, the edits to this particular flyer. If you like a secondary flyer for youth, if you can possibly send us specific language that you would like to see, that would be more tailored to a younger group. You know, what's here is just more of general language that, you know, if anyone picked it up and read it, it would kind of cover your bases. But if you feel as though that there is some additional language or a certain language, whatever the case may be, where it can be more youth oriented, please let us know so we can add that in there.
Consider the youth, the younger people. What age group is that?
Well, in this case, because this is a community advisory board for AB 109 public safety realignment. This is focused more so on the adult population, so adult reentry. So we're talking about youth in this case. I would recommend that it's transition aged youth. So your young adults, your 18 to 25 population.
We're going to revisit this flyer and we're looking for specific verbiage for the younger population. Is there someone that might be volunteering to help create that verbiage and have the information for the next meeting?
Yeah, or offline, if you have ideas, just email myself and Sherry on, and we can try to include that. If we don't get anything, then we won't have an updated flyer for you. I mean, you know, well, I want to make sure we're capturing exactly what you're looking for. Otherwise, you're making up something and it's not exactly what you were hoping for.
No,
So,
that's good.
yeah.
I'm gonna use that.
Right.
I like
Is everyone willing to stay for a few minutes while we go through the, we have two other items, 8 and 9. Identify the type of content for tabs visibility, and number 9, to review and discuss reports from the subcommittees and external meetings. Is everyone willing to stay an extra few minutes?
Can we read the meeting notes on our own time? Because they're all here.
Right. Yeah.
I can give you a few second update on the Board of Supervisors. It won't take long because there really isn't much, if you would like.
Yes, go ahead. Go
So
ahead.
there's nothing related to the CAB's work on the BOS agenda since last meeting. But coming up on April 22nd and 23rd are the budget hearings, and April 23rd will also include the next sheriff oversight report. And that concludes my report.
Anything from CCP? No, nothing from CCP, nothing from PPC. Do we have a report off from OCBC?
I think nothing than what we've already shared.
But we've already shared program and services. Everyone's read that. You want to give a brief report out? No?
I'll wait for 2 minutes.
The main thing I'll say for programs and services, because the full cab might want to know this, is that there was a full in custody survey findings presentation that was done at that subcommittee meeting last, as well as the consumer voice feedback findings report or presentation by RDA, which is contracted with health services. As they're rolling out the CalAIM effort. So they took in feedback also from folks that were in custody as well. So both of those pieces were shared at the program service.
Very informative.
I'll make mine quick. We had a really, I'm sorry, it's my turn.
Policy and budget.
Policy and budget. We had a really great meeting. It's for behavioral health and employment. We are having our final work group tomorrow. Great work, team, which is going to focus on the Pre and Post release as well as the GI pilot. So if you have the opportunity to join via Zoom, join so you can hear what's going on. And then we have a special meeting on the 22nd. Yeah, I believe that's the day, that's where we're gonna actually come as a committee and talk and debrief all of our work groups and really finalize what our recommendation will be to bring back to you all if we have to get your feedback. So that's pretty much the gist of it. If you missed the last meeting, definitely go back and look at the information that was presented, especially for programs and services. Even if you couldn't be there, there's a lot of stuff there that I think is important to you all to be able to now have it in writing on what the programs are. So.
One other thing I'll add for tomorrow will be a 4-hour long meeting.
Yeah, 4 hours.
We do have a break built in for that. And so we will be providing snack packs for the members.
Thank you.
So anyone else that may be in attendance in person.
That incentivizes you to.
BYO snacks. But otherwise, the second half of the meeting will be dedicated to hearing from the departments who have program modifications. They'll be sharing out how their modifications are in alignment with CAB's priorities and essentially, answering any questions you all may have related to their request to have additional that portion of that 15 million go toward their request.
So just to piggyback off of Patrice, when we come back in front of FOCAB, there'll be 2 areas that we're focusing on. And part of what you just said is for the departmental asks, also those that was from our CBOs, for example, the Reentry Center, as well as, and of course, we'll be talking about that part of it, and then the rest of it will be focused on our recommendations. So I know it's been a while since we talked about it, so just get prepared. It's going to be a full-on discussion for you all at FOCAB on what our recommendations will be.
It'll be a full day.
Yeah, it'll be a full, yeah.
So board on a Friday, come on by.
Yeah, come on.
And I do have to say, I sincerely appreciate you all are volunteers, the amount of time that you're taking for this planning session. Or these various planning sessions. I try my best to uplift that internally so folks understand you all are doing an enormous amount of work. And so I sincerely appreciate your leadership on this. And again, if there's any way that we can possibly support you as you're doing the deeper dive, because you're not only just doing the deep dive work during the meetings, you're studying up on this stuff prior to, and it's a lot of material. It's a lot of information. I know it's incredibly overwhelming. So just thank you for your leadership in that.
Thank you all for supporting us.
Moving to our next item, report from the Council on Homelessness, attachment 9, pages 43, 44.
Give a brief report out. There was a presentation from the Contra Costa YYA homelessness community assessment. There was a presentation about that. H3 updated their website. I have a link there if you want to check it out. They approved a new youth representative named Joel Moreno. And then they gave some funding updates, but Nicole is on that board too. So
yes,
I have some other things that I might have missed.
She asked, I mean, for a second time, you actually covered everything. So thank you. And if we have more time, we'll go deeper next time into the funding, but she actually covered it all for the sake of time. I won't hold y'all. Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to next step. I wonder where we'll come back and look at the flyer. Ariana, you have next steps recorded for us?
Yes, I have a lot of send language to RJ tailored for a younger group to include on the second flyer. Reach out to Glover and Carlson for Central District reps for the CAB membership. Reach out to the Spirit program, reach out to youth boards to recruit more youth, connect with the rising scholars at CCC to distribute flyers, reach out to the transitions clinic. And I think that's it. Oh, and develop a toolkit slash spreadsheet of CAB's work and discuss how do we share CAB's work with the public. Did I miss anything?
Just to, maybe you might have mentioned it, but just want to toggle back to Jill's recommendation regarding membership and quantifying that moving
Yes.
forward.
Yes, Jill suggested to reach out to Glover District 5 and Carlson from 4 for Central District representatives for CAB, since it's heavy on the East representation side.
Gariana, I think she's talking about when you have applications in the future to make sure you attach the roster and where each person's from.
Oh, yes, sorry, I forgot that. Yes, include current roster and number of available seats and breakdown of membership.
Thank you. Very good. And moving forward, as we adjourn, let us carry forward the commitment to uplift, support, and advocate for those on the journey of reentry. Together, we make strides toward a brighter and more inclusive future for all. We're adjourning today. Our next CAB general meeting will be April 11th from 10 until 12 p.m. And we do not have a CCP date as of yet. PPC meets Monday, April 1st at 1 p.m. Outreach and Community Engagement, March 19th from 10 to 12:30 p.m. Programming Services, Thursday, March 21st from 11 to 12:30. Policy and Budget Subcommittee meets tomorrow from 11 to 3 p.m. Thank you.
So one more thing before you adjourn, 2 more things. I believe the PPC meeting just recently got canceled, so that April 1st meeting won't be happening. And then the other piece, I'm not sure if this was raised during the announcements, and forgive my tardiness, but the ORJ is hosting a restorative justice community sort of feedback session on April 15th from 2 to 4 here in this room. We also are providing a virtual option for folks. We recently released our final report of our needs assessment around how to best embed further into our system of the restorative justice practices and approaches. Believe you all were on our email list that when that email blast went out. So hopefully you have an opportunity. It's a dense report, but do take your time with it. And we're asking the community to come out and just share with us their reactions and their impressions, particularly around some of the recommendations of where we see ourselves going next with the remaining Measure X dollars that we have for launching a pilot project. So, yeah.
Good. Well, thank you for that. And with that, we are.
Thank you, everybody.